Challenges have the power to shape your life if you let them. You see, when a lot of us face challenges, whether we realize that they're challenges or not, the simple reaction is to be annoyed, to be frustrated, to feel like life or God is somehow against us, and to treat that moment or that event or that particular situation with a sort of unease, a sort of reluctance, a sort of frustration, instead of seeing it as an opportunity for growth. I always tell people that it's much easier to go downhill than it is to go uphill. Because when you go uphill, you're working against the forces of gravity. And spirituality can be likened to this example. Our first and initial instinct is often like going downhill. It's the easiest response. It's very simple to treat a challenge with annoyance, with frustration, with even anger. But it's much, much harder to try to treat that moment as something that is here to teach us something, to treat it with patience, to treat it with love, to even treat it with kindness. But that is where the reward ultimately rests. Think about when you're hiking somewhere, right? Let's say you're hiking up atop a mountain or somewhere beautiful, and you want to get up to that destination to see either a waterfall or a mountain vista or something. And all the pain and effort comes from going uphill. Once you've already reached the top, there's only one way down, which is going downhill. But the true joy is in that uphill climb. Even though it is strenuous, even though it can sometimes be tedious, even though it can fatigue you, the true reward is waiting for you at the end. And similarly, in our spiritual life, when we experience the challenges, the reward from these challenges comes when we actually approach them and embrace them and learn from them and ultimately learn how to navigate them. There's no sort of difference here. Challenges come in a lot of different forms. As I mentioned earlier, sometimes we know that they're challenges, but sometimes they're a little bit um, harder to see, harder to perceive. Right? One example that I like to use sometimes is the weather. Sometimes it's so inconspicuous. It's kind of just gliding by beneath the surface. But somehow we've let the weather control our mood and control our own happiness. If we're used to sunny weather, for example, maybe a few days of cloudy, overcast weather can make us feel gloomy, can make us feel a little bit blue. If we're used to, for example, rainy weather, right, and we like that weather and that's what we're comfortable with and we feel cozy and we feel at home, but all of a sudden it's blaring hot for a week, we start to feel different. We start to feel uncomfortable. Even though, if you think about it, there's really nothing to be uncomfortable about. Yes, it's something new. It's something we don't necessarily prefer, but too often do we just unconsciously let the weather dictate our emotions, dictate our sense of well-being, dictate our sense of happiness. When in reality, your happiness comes from within. Doesn't matter if it's snowing, if it's raining, if it's sunny or cloudy. Doesn't matter where you are. Doesn't matter who you're with. It all lies within. So that's an example of a challenge that is not really in your face, but it's there, right? We can see it, we can feel it, we can sometimes notice it. And that's the sort of the key part, is being able to notice it. Because once you notice something, once you become aware of it, you start to realize the greater picture. You start to be able to see the truth unfolding and manifesting before your very eyes. In the example of the weather, you start to see that, these are just shifting states of the world, just as we have shifting states of the mind. One minute we're sad, one minute we're happy. One minute we're excited, one minute we're fearful. But underneath all of this is sort of this calm, peaceful joy emanating from within. And the more we are attuned to it, the more we are aware of it and open to it, the more the joy radiates from within. It becomes a part of our daily existence. We don't even have to try anymore. It's just sort of a natural vibration or a frequency that is, permeating our entire body and our being. So challenges, they have this miraculous ability to transform. And that's really what I want to focus on here is it's not just learning something necessarily. It's not just growing. It's completely transforming ourselves from who we were to who we're meant to be. It's almost like a process of alchemy. Except in this case, instead of turning something simple into something beautiful or rare as gold, we're turning or we're transforming our human experience, our human feelings, our human emotions into a timeless and formless spiritual experience. That is the alchemy that is at play here. That is what we mean when we talk about awakening, when we talk about enlightenment, the raising of our consciousness. We are taking the human and we're transforming it into spiritual. And challenges are a key ingredient of that alchemy process. Without challenges, we can never transform. And that's why some of the most difficult challenges, whether that be the loss of a loved one, whether that be the onset of a very serious medical condition, whether that be financial struggles, whether that be marital or other relationship problems, whatever those sort of rock bottom moments, as painful and as difficult as they are in that moment and the time thereafter, they also carry with it an incredible ability to transform, to heal, to make us change how we see the world, our lives, and ourselves. But the key is if we let them, right? Remember what I said earlier about challenges having the power to change us as long as we let them. And that's sometimes hard for many of us, right? Sometimes we struggle accepting the fact that we're not in control of everything. Sometimes we struggle accepting the fact that this life is not forever. We struggle accepting the fact that what we've grown accustomed to, what we've become familiar with, may all of a sudden change one day. It may not continue as it has, in the months and years before. So we have sort of this rigidity that we are very reluctant to let go of. And that's one of the most difficult things is to be rigid in life, to not go with the flow, to not be flexible. Because this life is meant to take you up and down and all the way around. There's no slow and steady course. In fact, one of the strange ironies that I found the more I'm traveling on the spiritual journey is that on the surface it may seem like a nice calm walk in the park. You might see someone that's very much at peace, very much in tune with their inner selves. And on the surface, it may appear that that person has figured life out, has achieved the ultimate nirvana or enlightenment. But behind that facade or behind that image, there's actually a culmination of so many struggles, of so many heartbreaks, of so many difficulties, of so many challenges. You're only seeing the end product of it. In fact, the spiritual journey, one can argue, is perhaps the most difficult journey there is the most challenging journey there is, because it requires you to keep breaking, keep smashing through all the layers that you have accumulated and built up over time. It requires you to constantly challenge everything. People have reached the very edge of insanity and madness, becoming so immersed in this idea that they are not this form, they are not this image, they are something infinite, they are one with God. Now, of course, my suggestion here is not to reach that state. Uh, to each their own, and certainly everyone has their own experience, and I don't want to take anything away from that. But the point that I'm really trying to convey here is that this journey is meant for you to grow and to transform and to change. You getting older, for example, that's just going to happen regardless. Whether you want it or you don't want it, it's going to happen. But it's better if you want it. It's better if you accept it. It's better if you embrace it, because you'll learn so much through the years. Age will bring you wisdom instead of sorrow. And that is true for all of life's challenges, right? Getting older is one challenge for some of us. Depends on where you are in the spectrum. Perhaps those of us that are a little bit younger, we want to get older, right? Because that's when quote unquote life begins. But those of us who might be approaching sort of the golden years, or the sort of the final chapters, we might not want that to end necessarily. We might want that to continue, and it's understandable, right? We all fear the unknown. We all fear what we have yet to experience. And certainly death, or some version thereof, is kind of a scary thought to think about. But that in and of itself is a challenge, believe it or not. Being comfortable with the fact that we won't be here forever, and that our life has a purpose and it has a meaning. In fact, by its very definition, the fact that it is finite and that it can be measured in years gives it all the more significance, all the more meaning. If our bodies lived forever, if we were in this human experience forever, then there wouldn't be sort of a focus or a goal or a mission with living this life. But God has given us a certain number of years, months, and days to experience that transformation, to ultimately awaken, to ultimately carry out His will on this earth. And so, connecting this back to the idea of challenges, we all have our own challenges, right? It's hard for me to list all the challenges, because what may be a challenge to you might not be a challenge to me, and vice versa. Or perhaps some of you may have experienced a challenge that others have yet to experience. Some of us might never experience the challenges that you're experiencing. So part of this journey is also recognizing that we each have our own unique challenges. There are definitely similarities. There are definitely points that we can share and discuss and learn from one another. But ultimately, each of our own stories, each of our own journeys will manifest and unfold in a very special and unique way. But challenges are not something to be afraid of. Challenges are not something to resist, to be annoyed at, to wish away. Challenges are what I believe the single greatest contributing factor to our spiritual growth. You hear a lot about the dark night of the soul, and so many individuals talking about it, whether that's on social media, whether it's in other platforms. You hear so many individuals talking about it. But important to remember with the dark night of the soul is that there's always that dawn right at the end. Right? The soul has to go through that dark and difficult period in order to ultimately cleanse itself, in order to ultimately heal, in order to ultimately awaken. right? We all have this process. We kind of have to hit that rock bottom. We have to hit that low, or a series of lows. It doesn't have to be one devastating blow, but it could be a series of lows. Many of you who know the expression "when it rains, it pours" can probably relate to what I'm saying here. But it doesn't have to be grand necessarily in order for it to be transformative. Even small shifts in your attitude, even small shifts in your awareness can be transformative. So, going back to that earlier example of the weather, instead of seeing a change of the seasons or a change of the weather as something to be annoyed at, view it as a challenge, view it as an opportunity to practice patience, to practice gratitude, to practice sort of an awareness that things come and things go. For example, just sticking with this particular scenario for a moment, we experienced here in Southern California pretty intense sort of winds, coming from the different sort of weather and other factors that are sort of occurring. And obviously, with that extreme weather events, there's also the dryness that is typical in in winter time. And typically, my skin gets very dry. My knuckles can sometimes get bloodied, and I definitely need to apply more moisturizer than usual. And the reason I'm saying all of these things is because even though it's an uncomfortable situation, even though it's something that can be unpleasant and can be uncomfortable, um, I also try to treat that with a sense of gratitude and a sense of appreciation and awareness that, yes, in wintertime, the weather becomes a lot drier and my skin doesn't handle that very well. And so I have to do something to make it better. Now, if this was a younger version of myself, I would complain, I would get frustrated, I would get mad at everything that why is my skin so dry? And why can't it why is it getting chipped up and chapped and everything? Why is this happening to me? Right. But ultimately, I've learned through time to just sort of accept it. And if I can change it, great, do something about it. In this case, put on a lot of moisturizer and recognize that, in a month or two, this will pass. Or I can take the other route, which is the route that I used to take, which is don't do anything about it and just complain and just be mad and just be upset. And I didn't realize back then how much that hurt my soul, how much that affected me and my own spiritual transformation, how much that set me back. Right. I think that's one of the things that, it's, I don't have the opportunity to tell a lot of people this, but anytime you get annoyed, anytime you get frustrated at something, it's as if you're taking 3, 4, 5 steps backwards. Right. I'm not saying that you have to tolerate everything. I'm not saying that you have to be a yes man or a yes woman, but just treat every experience as sort of a passing experience. This too shall pass. The good will pass, the bad will pass, the so so will pass, everything will pass. So if it passes, don't give so much importance to it. Don't let all your emotions go into a roller coaster because of it. It will come and it will go, and you just let it pass by. That's, I think, the hallmark of a true spiritual, one who has really spent the time growing spiritually is being able to let things pass and almost having a kind of a no memory of it. This is something that is another thing that I've practiced a lot is really letting go of things, not just in this moment, but also in my memory and freeing up my mind, freeing up my psyche to hold and process more positive things. If someone did something that rubbed me the wrong way, maybe in that moment I might have some sort of a feeling. Certainly, with more awareness, with more wisdom, it's not as strong as say before. But even if something does sort of catch my attention in probably a negative way, I've learned to just, kind of let it go and don't build that reserve. Don't build that memory. Don't keep it within. Don't hold it within. Don't keep, repeating that same victim mentality or that same sort of attitude that, oh, I remember when this person did this or this person did that. It's really just having a clean slate, being at peace. That's all really connected to this idea of letting everything go. And of course, I mentioned, the example of when a person does this, but equally so, that person can be the challenge, right? If you've ever encountered a difficult situation with someone that's being difficult, and I know many of us have, many of us are probably experiencing that right now, you'll know that there's an opportunity within that challenge from that person, to sort of practice something. Or maybe it might be so extreme that that negative or toxic relationship or encounter is sort of God's way of telling us you need to get out. You need to do something. You've tolerated this for so long, but now for your own physical, mental, spiritual, and every other type of health, you need to get out of this situation. And you need to do whatever is possible to get you to a better state. So all the time, challenges are trying to tell us something. They're trying to transform. And sometimes the solution to those challenges will also change, right? So if you're experiencing a financial difficulty, maybe you start trying to solve that difficulty on one path, but then another opportunity opens up and you're able to solve it in another direction. So it's also being aware of the fact that even though a challenge might persist and endure for a long time, the solution can evolve also over time. As sort of life changes, as we changes, as our perception changes, that solution will also change. But that's okay, right? That's a part of life. So there's clearly a lot that I can share and talk about challenges. I think it's a beautiful topic. I think it's something that we should all be focusing more on. Rather than just always focusing on the positive, focusing on all the good talk. Let's focus on something that is probably not receiving a lot of attention, which is these challenges and how they have the power to truly shape our lives if we let them. So let me know what you guys think. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you're starting the year with hopefully a set of challenges that are, can be surmountable, can be navigated. But if you are experiencing some challenges that, let's say, are a little bit harder for you at the moment, I always want you to know that I'm here. And I know it may sound difficult listening to this on the other side of the screen, but I do offer counseling sessions, and I'm always happy to make the time, to provide a safe space where you can share, where you can talk through anything that you're going through in complete confidence, because I believe it's important. Not all of us have the luxury of being able to talk to someone, being able to open up to someone, and having them truly listen and understand and kind of help us with our challenges. So if that is you and you are looking for some additional support beyond this video, beyond this channel, please do not hesitate to reach out to me personally, directly, privately. I have my information on the website. You can email me there, or you can just send me a comment, and we can take it from there. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please drop a like if you did. Please also check out the channel for more videos, similar videos like this, that are meant to help you on your spiritual journey. But for now, I thank you again for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day and week ahead, and I will see you next time.